Oh, welcome back to your usual update of my life. So, yeah, we are about to read chapter 2 of this novel that I am reading, teaching myself how to read again and also improving my vocabulary. From reading chapter 1, I wrote down a lot of, I don't know if you can see, all these are new words that I want to learn and also use them in my daily life. So far, I've only been able to research some few words. Like, if you can see here, the ones that have words on top are the ones that I've been able to like Google them to try and figure out what they mean. Google their meaning. Sorry, that's what I want to mean. I have Googled their meaning, and yeah, so far I have still a lot of words to research. Let me try and make it more visible. I hope you can see this now. Here on here at on the top, these are the ones that I've already googled their meanings and understood how I can use them in sentences or in my daily life communicating. And then the rest I have not yet searched their meanings. But yeah, I thought I should update you on that. Yeah. I hope the lighting is right for us to continue. Have you found anybody on YouTube who's creating like raw content like I am right now? Because my content is raw, no editing, no nothing. Like you get it, even if I shrub, even if I run out of things to say, you're gonna be part of that process with me. So let's get into chapter 2 of this novel that I'm reading by Tracy Kelly. It's called Murder at Longbourn. Okay. So let's continue. Chapter 2. By the time I'm done with this book, I'll have found more than 1,000 words to research the meaning to and how to use them in a sentence. So chapter 2 starts with a quote. Also chapter 1 started with a quote. So this is the quote that is in chapter 2. For what do we live but to make sport for our neighbors and laugh at them in our turn? Let me repeat it again. For what do we live but to make sport for our neighbors and laugh at them in return? This quote was by Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. It's from Pride and Prejudice. I think I should also read this book because the author of this book really speaks a lot about Pride and Prejudice. So yeah. So let's start chapter 2. What I want to know is, who is he exactly? Lawrence says he is an old friend of the family. But then, why is he staying here and not with them? No, there is something fishy going on there. I may be old fashioned, but you just can't discount appearances. This from an elderly woman wearing an enormous maroon velvet hat liberally festooned with silk flowers. A large yellow mum near the top quivered in delighted disapproval. Beside me, Joan Anderson leaned forward, her glass slipping down her nose. What is she like, anyways? I've never seen her. The couple at the center of this speculation was Lauren Ramsey and Daniel Sims. She was the wife of wealthy local Gerald Ramsey. He, the purported old family friend. Daniel's unexpected visit and apparently provided hours of conjecture for the town's avid gossips. Undisputed leader being the woman in the velvet hat, Miss Jacqueline Turner, known as Jackie. Oh, she's pretty, in a kind of obvious way, blonde, perpetually tan. She tends to keep to herself. Jackie's expression indicated a deep suspicion of people who enjoyed privacy. But why do you think he isn't staying with them? Joanne asked. Jackie's only response to this was a slight raising of her eyebrow. It spoke volumes. But wouldn't it make more sense to stay there if... Joan broke off, blushing. Henry's round face radiated discomfort, not only of the sordid direction the conversation was taking, but at his wife's participation in it. How long fingers played with the stem of his wine glass. Maybe they didn't have enough room, I offered. Jackie scoffed. Clearly, you have seen their house. Lack of room isn't the reason. There's another reason. Or I'll eat my heart. Momentarily distracted by the bizarre image, I lost the thread of conversation. If you ask me, she continued, there is no fool like an old fool, and Gerald is not a man who invites much sympathy. His first wife died. From what I understand, she found death a refuge. Beside me, I had Joan's quick intake of breath at this callous remark. Jackie continued unawares. No, the one I feel sorry for is the girl, Polly. She's a bit of an odd duck. But who wouldn't be growing up in that house? Rumor has it, Gerard practically keeps her a prisoner, won't let her live on her own, which is just absurd. I gather that she was accepted to Oxford for some art history program, but he wouldn't let her go. And until she inherits her trust fund, which won't be until she's 25, she's stuck. Any sympathy I might have felt for Polly markedly diminished at this. Call me insensitive, but the whoos of trust fund babies failed to stir any real sympathy in me. Jackie was still talking. I wonder if Polly resents Lauren. She mused before adding, not of course, it's any of my business. Not of course that it's any of my business. She said this last bit without a trace of irony, and it was hard not to be impressed. Suddenly her head swiveled, sending her droplet earrings swinging. Something behind me held her intention. Her eyes darkened with interest. Well, speak of the devil, she said softly. I have heard of people described as exuding sex appeal, but I don't think I ever understood what it meant until I saw Daniel Sims. It wasn't merely that he was incredibly good looking. Think of a contemporary Greek god with slightly tousled dark ash hair and keen blue eyes, and you get the picture. But I said, it wasn't just his looks, it was the way his tailored shirt hugged his shoulders, his wolfish grin, his slightly pre- predatory way of moving that all added up to it. Honest to God sexual appeal. He paused for a moment in the narrow doorway and, seeing our little group, ambled towards us. Ambled towards us ni kutembea. From the smile on his face, I was sure that he not only knew we had just been talking about him, but that he found it amusing. "Good evening, ladies," he said. Oh my God, he was British. I let the sound of his vocal cords, all suggestive of crumpets and Burberry tweed, wash over me. I admit to a certain weakness for an English accent, which is polite way of saying that the man could read the phone book to me and I would lose all capacity of radical thoughts, of rational thoughts. After politely greeting Aunt Winnie, he turned his attention to Jackie, saying, "Miss Turner, it's always a pleasure to see you." In spite of her unflattering gossip, Jackie was clearly not immune to his charm. A girlish blush stained the little bit of face that was visible underneath her hat. "We are just saying, Miss Sims," she said in a shrimpy voice, "how much we are looking forward to tomorrow night. I only hope the weather holds." "What's it like now?" "A bit rotten, actually," he enunciated. Both both it's the rotten both both it's in rotten, like an art lover discussing Giotto Giotto heaven Giotto discussing Giotto heaven. Aunt Winnie introduced me to Daniel and quickly pulled the others away under the flimsy pretext of showing them a flower arrangement. Subtly, it's not her strong point. I feel a bit of disadvantage. Daniel said to me, once they moved away, "I don't know anything about you, but I suspect that you can't say the same for me." He finished with a nod at Jackie's retreating back. She did provide a pretty through biography. I matched his light tone, although I must confess the years between your 10th and 13th birthdays are somewhat murky. "Ah yes, the dark years, as I like to call them," Jackie returned now, and out outmaneuvered Aunt Winnie joined us a split second later. Her mouth twisted in an annoying grimace. Mm. So, this word grimace, I've already searched it, and it's an expression that somebody makes when you are annoyed or angry. So at least I've learned the word. Boo boo. So it's pronounced as grimace. Oh, I like this. Twisted in an annoyed grimace. The dark years. Whatever are you two talking about? Jackie asked, with all small bird-like tilts of the head. Daniel's voice dropped an octave. What is octave? Dropped an octave. I don't usually tell people about that part of my life, but that's what I call the time when I was sent away. He discreetly winked at me. It was a horrible place, cold, impersonal. Terrible food, filled with other lads just like me. Prison? Jackie gasped eagerly. Daniel shook his head. Boarding school. After a brief pause, Jackie burst out laughing. Terrible man, go on. Laugh at an old woman. At my age, I can't drink or smoke. Gossiping is the only vice I have left. As we continued talking, the knot in my stomach slowly unfurled. Unfurled ni kufunguka. Unfurled. This might be a good weekend after all. Aunt Winnie could be mundane at times, and she definitely was an interfering matchmaker, but she had struck gold. Daniel was wonderful, good-looking, smart, and funny. From the way he kept directing bits of the conversation my way, it seems that he was interested as well. All was right with my world. Then I heard his voice. Aunt Winnie, have you seen the inventory list for tomorrow night? My effervescence feeling evaporated so quickly it felt like someone had sucked all the air out of my lungs. I turned and there he stood, the nemesis of my youth, Peter Emmett McGowan. He looked pretty much the same, which was damned unfair. I believe that intrinsically, evil people should manifest those traits physically. But he seemed untouched. He was still tall, his brown hair was still thick and curly, and his eyes were still that unusual shade of amber. I consoled myself by thinking that he must have a portrait of himself, one that showed him covered in boils and lesions. Sijui hiyo lesions inapronounsiwa hivyo. Hidden away somewhere. The past 15 years dropped away. I was once again a gauky, not guaki, a gauky. What is a gauky? A gauky overnight girl with back teeth and glasses. So real was the feeling that I gave myself a quick mental shake and took a generous sip of wine, mainly to reassure myself that it wasn't a glass of Ovaltine that I held in my hands. Then he saw me. It was clear that it didn't register who I was at first, but soon recognition down in his eyes. Oh my God, he said. Cocoa Puff. Is that you really? Cocoa Puff? That stupid, hateful nickname. I couldn't believe he had just called me that. and in front of Daniel, no less. The blood rushed to my face and I was red. Warm face, I had myself retort. No, no inner poise. In inner poise, I mentally screamed at myself too late. Peter burst out laughing. Warm face? God, I haven't had that one in years. You might look different, but you are the same old Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how have you been? Fine, I muttered, my dignity in tatters. Oh yes, I thought, I'm just fine. I just called a grown man warm face in front of people I barely knew. Inner poise, my ass. An hour later, I was with Aunt Winnie in the kitchen. The cocktail party had broken up shortly after my outburst. Daniel was eating at the Ramsey's house. Joan and Henry had reservations at the local restaurant, and Peter had wandered off with his inventory in hand, apparently, obviously, to the shrugging emotions. What is shrug? Emotions he'd stripped up in me. He'd stirred up in me. Through the charming emotion he'd stirred up in me. But as black as my mood had been, it was hard to maintain it in the kitchen. Almost relentlessly cheerful atmosphere. Aunt Winnie had compensated for the coldness of the necessary industrial stainless steel appliance with a seemingly endless amount of red toil. 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 What is that? It was the fabric for the curtains, it was the tablecloth, it was the seat cushions, it was even peppered on the black wall. The wide pine planks of the floor were still bare, but I suspected the future held something. And Twinnie sat at the long farmhouse-style table while I cooked up both omelettes, the only hot meal I could make with any real success. You are not going to stay mad at Peter for the whole weekend, are you? She asked. I am in no humor to give consequence to the young man who delighted in tormenting me as a child. I roast. I groused. She laughed. Don't you think you might be misjudging him? I threw some mushrooms and onions into the pan. I think he's arrogant, immature, and self-centered, and I have no opinion of him. And Twinnie rolled her eyes upward. Fine, have it your way. New subject. What did you think of Daniel? Him, I like. I shook the pan and flipped the omelette over. But why does everyone think there is something odd about his being here? You'd have to know the Ramses to understand. I slid the fluffy yellow omelette onto the plate. Thank you, sweetie, she said before continuing. Gerald is a singularly unpleasant man. It makes it hard to believe that Lauren fell in love with him and not his money. But I suppose whenever a wealthy old man marries a beautiful and much younger woman, tongues are bound to wag. I sat down across from her. but to suggest that she'd bring her lover to town under her husband's nose is pretty outrageous. And Twinnie nodded. Well, that's Jackie for you. It's a horrible gossip, but there's something endearing about her all the same. I met her down at the gym. We both take that senior fitness program, and she is in amazing shape. And Twinnie posts, somehow I get the impression that she hasn't had a particularly happy life. Although truth be told, I really don't know her all that well. They only moved they they only moved here last month. I said through a mouthful. She and Lynette Westin, apparently. She's an old school friend of Jackie's. Jackie lives with her as a sort of companion. What's she like? I have never met her. Actually, I guess we'll find out tomorrow night. And Twinnie said, oh, I forgot to show you the invitations for the party. She read it into a toilet basket on the countertop behind her, pulled out the invitation and handed it to me. Printed on heavy white cardstock, the invitation read, help us bring in the new year with a night of dinner, dancing, and death. Be prepared for screams in the dark and red herrings. And remember, many will come, but one won't be going home. So what do you think? Don't you just love it? It's very nice, I agreed before adding pointedly. I got a post-it. And Twinnie leaned forward and took back the invitation. Yes, I know, dear. Remember, I am the one who sent it. Now don't pout. I ran out of the printed ones. Expect this one. Of course, I wanted one of the memory books. So she continued as she leaned back in the wooden chair. You haven't told me what you think of the place. She paused dramatically. How did you like the house, Lizzie? I grinned. I like it very much. I don't think I have ever seen a house so happily situated. And Twinnie laughed. God, you have no idea how long I have been waiting to ask you that. Glad to oblige. Seriously, though, it's wonderful. I am still amazed that you bought it. And Twinnie's lips curled up in a self-satisfied smile. Yes, and I suspect there are few others who feel that way as well. Meaning this place was in the middle of a nasty bidding war when I first saw it. Actually, one of the bidders was Gerald Ramsey. Oh, he was fit to be tied when the owner sold it to me and not to him. I heard he turned 8 shades of purple when he found out. He's been a real pain in the ass ever since. How? Well, he is something of a big wig around here, and as such he does wield a lot of influence. Unfortunately, one of his cronies, Ted Marshall, is the zoning board. Lately, Mr. Marshall has pushed through several new B&B requirements that seem designed solely to make my life miserable, such as things like septic tanks upgrades, proper fencing, and adequate parking facility, random board, random board of health inspections, you name it. I wouldn't be surprised to see him out front measuring the length of the grass come summer. Can't you do anything to fight back? Oh, don't worry about me, she said with a smile. I have dealt with the likes of Gerald Ramsey before. I know what to do with him. I have a friend who writes for the local paper. He'd, he'd be more than happy to do a piece on town council corruption, but it will probably never even get to that. I'm sure Gerard will eventually move on to some other obsession. Right now, his pride is hurt because he lost this place and he is not used to losing. How did you manage to get the house then? As luck would have it, the woman who was selling it was a fan of Jane Austen as well. When I told her my plan to turn it into a B&B and name it the Inn of Longburn, the dear woman's eyes practically missed over. We became good friends. I invited her to the party tomorrow, but she's visiting her grandchildren in California and can't make it. Now, enough about me. How are you doing? The truth, I asked, pushing my empty plate away from me. She nodded. Well, I hate my job. My boyfriend turned out to be a two-timing creep. Kit calls me weekly to inform me that my chances of getting married are rapidly deteriorating, and George seems well on his way to becoming permanent fixture in Mom's life. George is my mother's boyfriend. They started dating a few years after my father died. Apparently, during a fit of loneliness on my mom's part, my mother is an English professor who I thought would be attracted to men capable of multi-syllabus multisyllabic speech. With George, she opted for a brown over brains, and while George is a nice enough fellow, he need to be watered once a week. Well, then, this weekend is just what you need, and who knows, you just might find that Peter improves on how closer acquaintance. You just might find that Peter improves on close acquaintance. I rolled my eyes. I'd sooner call George a wit. And Twinnie laughed. Oh, cheer up. I can't fix George. I can't fix George's ignorance, or your job, or even Kit, for that matter. But I can show you a good time tomorrow night, she yawned. And speaking of tomorrow, I really should get a head start on the muffins for breakfast. You go to bed, said clearing the dishes. I can handle the muffins, and Twinnie protested. But in the end, I won out. After mixing the batter for the banana nut muffins and setting out the blue and white breakfast dishes on the dining room sideboard, I was still wide awake. I shut off the lights in the dining room, made myself a mug of hot Earl Grey, and headed for the reading room, just off the reception area. It was a cozy, comfortable room, decorated in a varying shades of yellow and blue. There were several overstuffed club chairs, and the built-in bookshelves that ran along the far wall were filled with capacity. In the middle of the far wall was a large brick fireplace. I had just settled contentedly into one of the fire chairs with a copy of Rebecca when I heard a noise. It seemed to be coming from the dining room. As I made my way there, I passed Aunt Winnie's office. From behind it closed door, I could hear movements. Peter, no doubt. The last thing I wanted to do was ask for his help. So I gamingly continued on towards the dining room. Peering into the room's inky darkness. Oh, nimelan pia peering. Peering ni kama uko kwa dirisha alafu jaribu kuchungulia ni nini iko huko ndani. Hiyo ndo peering. You see, I'm learning words. Peering into the room's inky darkness. I couldn't make anything out, but the noise was definitely coming from the back corner. Hello, I called out softly. No one answered, but the noise continued and was now moving in my direction. Goosebumps danced down my arms as the uneasy sensation of being watched over came me. Spooked, I fumbled for the light switch, finding it was just as something heavy hit my shoulder, briefly dug in and launched off of me. The accompanying hissing sound gave me a little doubt as to the identity of my attacker, but the combination of the sudden bling light and Lady Catherine's crazy behavior left me disoriented. I took a steady step backward. The form I came into contact with this time, however, was definitely not feline, and I screamed as a pair of arms came up around me. Wah! I didn't mean to frighten. Are you alright? I asked Daniel. My legs felt like jelly and I leaned against him for support. Sorry, I said with a weak smile. That damned cat scared me. I heard running footsteps on the staircase, and a second later Peter stood in the door. When he saw me in Daniel's arms, his dark brows lowered in an ominous line. Ominous line, transforming his original expression of concern into one of mild disgust. Excuse me, he said stiffly. I didn't mean to interrupt. I opened my mouth to explain, but Daniel spoke first. Quite all right. Sorry to disturb. Peter shot me an annoyed look before disappearing back into the foyer. Daniel turned back to me. What's his problem? Who knows? I muttered, reluctantly detaching myself from his arms. As you can see, Peter and I are not the best of friends. Ah yes, that would explain, the warm face remark. Averting my face to hide my blush, I saw the reason for Lady Catherine's nocturnal visit to the dining room. My carefully laid out sideboard was trampled. The cereal canisters laying on their sides, their contents spread out everywhere, which way out every which way. A mass of pink flowers lay in a pool of water, their stems twisted and broken. I uttered a very unladylike oath. Daniel glanced at me in surprise. Sorry, I said, embarrassed. By product of 4 years at an all-girls boarding school. Please, don't apologize, he said with a grin. There is something a little sexy about fresh-pressed girls with a filthy mouth. Unsure how to respond, I instead focused on clearing up the mess. Daniel stayed and helped. Sometime during the process, Lady Catherine nonchalantly returned with an incurious glance in our direction. She languidly, not languidly, she languidly settled herself in her bed. It was a large wicker basket filled with soft white pillows, embroidered with frockling mice, situated underneath the mahogany sideboard. It not only gave Lady Catherine an excellent vantage point of the room, but also put her in a close proximity to the food. After we rest everything, Daniel walked me to the door of my room, almost as if it were the end of a date. I thanked him again. It was my pleasure, he said with an exaggerated bow. Once inside my room, the sleep that had eluded me before now overtook me. I quickly changed into my pajamas and gratefully sank into the soft feathered. As I leaned over to turn out the light, I saw that Aunt Winnie had hung a framed quote of Woody Aliens over the nightstand. The lions will lay down with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much sleep. Unbidden, Peter's annoyed face swam before my eyes. The two of us were just not destined to get along. Although, for Aunt Winnie's sake, I would try, refusing to let my last thoughts before sleep centered on Peter. I concentrated instead on Daniel. It certainly was nice of him to help me clean up the dining room, I thought sleepingly. But just as I was drifting off, I realized Peter had come from upstairs when he heard me scream. So he had been in Aunt Winnie's office, and why hadn't whoever it was come to oh my god. Yes, we are done with chapter 2. Today I've decided to read the whole chapter 2 so that we can be done with. So I'm done with chapter 2. We're gonna do chapter 3 tomorrow. Today in chapter 2 I have not got a lot of words, and the good thing about chapter 2, I've found the words that I had gotten in chapter 1 that I had researched the meaning for. So now reading, I was just understanding what it meant, what the author was meaning. Alright, so yeah, so that is our chapter 2. Tomorrow we are gonna be in chapter 3. Anyway, that is it for today. Teaching myself how to read and learning new words. As you can see, those are the new words of today. So yeah, let me prepare myself to go live. I always go live on TikTok from around 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, and if my audience are more active, I'd stay up to 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning. So let me prepare myself to go live, and I will catch you guys later, give you an update on how my live went. So see you later. Toodles.